Hey everyone, welcome to Vibe Check, a new series on our YouTube channel. My name is Sean Cameron Dalton from SCD Scoring, and in this series I'd like to go over how I score films personally, how I set things up on the tech side, and how I compose music, um, whether it's theory, instrumentation. A lot of this stuff is things that I learned in college, and some of it's stuff I found on my own and what I wish someone would have taught me when I was just starting out. So I'm hoping that everyone who's watching this will learn a lot, that it'll help you out in the long run and kind of give you a jump start on composing for film. I want to go over the basics pretty much, which in this case is going to be setting up your DAW, which stands for Digital Audio Workstation, and basically how to get a movie ready to be scored. Um, I use something called Logic Pro 10 or X, which is Apple's music production software. I like it because it's a very clean interface, very easy to use, and also I'm biased because it's what I learned on. So if you don't use Logic, some of these steps will be different from whatever DAW you use, but it'll give you kind of a personal view on how I like to set up my workflow. So let's have a look. So just to jump right in, the first thing we're going to want to do is go up to Logic Pro, Preferences, and Advanced Tools. This is very important. Right now they're all checked, and you want to have them all checked. If you don't, then Logic will be nothing more than a glorified GarageBand. So definitely have each and every one of these checked so that you can move forward. Next, still in Preferences, we want to go to Display, and down here we have SMPTE without subframes. This is for the time code that you're going to have on screen when you're scoring a film. There are 4 sections of digits. It's hours, minutes, seconds, and frames. And sometimes, for some reason, they have it with subframes, which is what it looks like up here with this dot, and then there's yet another section of digits. And it takes up space, and it's not something you really need, so go ahead and click SMPTE without subframes. Also, right above that, display middle C as. If you have any sort of classical music training or music theory, then C4 is what technically is middle C on the piano. And for me, seeing C3 is confusing. In the MIDI world, C3 is middle C, but in theory, it's C4. So you can change that there so you don't get confused as you're working on stuff. Next, go over to the mixer. Now, next, go over to editor, and we see piano roll bright background. If I hit P, it brings up the piano roll right here, and you can either choose to have it be dark or have it bright. I personally like to have it bright because it's a nice little contrast against the rest of the display, which is all grayed out. It just kind of a change of pace. That's nice, and I like it. All right. Next, what we're going to do, X out of that, and we're going to go to Project Settings. And from there, down to MIDI. Now, this is very important because it's going to save you a lot of heartache. So you're going to hit Chase, and then we're going to check Notes up here and Notes down here. And what these two do is that if you have music written in the main tracks area and you want to replay a bit of your music, Logic will play whatever it is you've written. But if these are not checked, then what happens is if you happen to have the little placer in the middle of a region of music, it won't play it. It will only play if it starts at the very beginning. So that can be extremely annoying, and you definitely don't want that. It'll drive you nuts. Next, we're going to edit this control bar up here. Oh, oops.
where all these different controls are. So hit this little enclosure triangle, and we're going to do custom. Now, I'm on my laptop, so there's not quite as much space as you might get on a desktop, but it's important to show you just what you should have up here. So hit display mode and do customize control bar and display. And this is already set to custom. You're going to turn off locators. You're going to turn on sample rate, keep tempo, keep time signature. I like to have key signature and project end on here because it allows you to quickly change how many measures are in your project instead of having to scroll all the way down and do it. Also, I usually like to have MIDI activity just so I can see if I have any MIDI controller plugged in that it's working properly. But if everything is working properly, then you can honestly take it out. And then I also recommend having performance meter on, just so you can see how much CPU is being used by Logic. Over here, it's going to be this little section. You can't even see it because there's already so much here, but we're going to uncheck master volume because it's both in the mixer and right down here. We really don't need it. You definitely want to have click. Count in, if you have count in however you like it, beats with a click, without, then you can honestly get rid of it. But you can also have it there. It might be nice. Let's see. Auto punch, replace. Take replace off. Tuner is always there. Solo is always there. I like to keep them there at least. And then I usually like to have software monitoring and auto input monitoring. That way you can make sure everything is working as it needs to be. Now on this side, I personally have a lot of the keystrokes memorized, so I don't need library because all you have to do is press Y. Don't need the inspector because all you have to do is press the letter I. Quick help at this point, don't need it. And the toolbar I'll keep. I don't use it a lot, but if so, it's good to have. And then obviously you want to have mixer, editors, and the smart controls. On this side, this little section controls what's over here. And Apple Loops, again, is just a one letter. You just hit the letter O. So I like to take that off. And then browsers, notepad, list editors, I tend to keep. So that's what we're looking at for the control bar. Next, I want to go over the track header, which is this guy right here, because there's a few things we need to change. So we're going to go down to configure track header. And first we have the normal ones: mute, solo, record enable, input monitoring. You want all of those, but you also want protect and freeze. And the reason for this is that protect, when it's on, allows you to completely set aside a track from being edited. When it's protected, you cannot make any sort of changes to it, which means you can't do anything to it by accident, like delete a region of music or whatever might happen. You hit the lock and it's good to go. Another thing for freeze, if you find that you're using up a lot of CPU and a lot of RAM, especially if you're using a lot of MIDI tracks, you can hit this freeze button on the track header, and anything written in this track will be temporarily turned to an audio file. So it frees up a lot of space, especially if you're dealing with tons of tracks. It's good to freeze ones that you're not using. Right, you definitely want volume, definitely want pan. Track numbers, it's up to you. If you're using a lot of tracks, obviously, 50 or more, then yes, definitely have track numbers. For smaller projects like, songwriting projects, I tend to not do it because everything is more or less in sight. I do recommend color bars because that's a great way to organize instruments, especially by instrument types. Like if you're writing for orchestra, you have all the brass be one color, all the strings one color, all percussion one color, things like that. You want to have groove track on. What this does is, if you go up here, there's a little star appears, and whatever, like say this is a drum track, and you have your drums in here, If you hit this star, this becomes your groove track, and all other tracks will sync up to this one. So it's a very quick and efficient way of having everything line up together. I usually don't use track icons because it's just another way for me to procrastinate. This is just a personal preference. Some people like to have that visual aid there to help with organization. I personally don't. And then last but not least is track alternatives, which you want on. So you click it. These little arrows appear right next to the name. And what this does is, I'll click out. If you have a line of music written in this track, but you want to try out possibly a different line, but you also don't want to delete what you currently have, you can hit these arrows, make a new alternative, and it will save that previous version and allow you to write in new stuff without having to delete anything. And you can have multiples of these, so it's incredibly nice and helpful. Another small thing I like to do, if you hit View and hit Secondary Ruler, you have not only the beats of the music, but you have a time code up here. So this is really helpful when you need an overview of your movie and seeing kind of where you are without having to go to the actual time code. It's just a very quick way. And also it's nice to be able to compare and contrast where the music is time-wise as opposed to beat-wise. Next, we should probably go over loading an actual film. It's kind of important when doing film scoring. So you go to File, we're going to go down to Movie, and hit Open Movie. Simple as that. It's going to take just a second to load here. Alright, so I'll load something random, documents. This is a short film that I helped out with a while back. You just choose it, hit Open, and what's nice is that these two little dialog boxes come up. First has the option to open the movie, which obviously you want to do, and it gives you the option to extract the audio. You want this checked, because when you're scoring a film, you don't always want to be able to hear the dialogue and the sound effects. Sometimes you just want to focus on music, but sometimes you also want to have that stuff in there so that you can kind of get a sense of what the final project will sound like. So you want both of these checked, you want to hit OK, then this pops up. It's going to ask you if you want the sample rate to match. Well, it's not going to ask you, it's just going to tell you. And obviously you want to have them match. So movies are going to be 48. Frame rate is being recommended is the one you want. The movie has 23.98. You want the project to be 23.98. So you choose that. Then it's going to extract the audio for you and create its own separate track that you'll be able to mute, solo, what have you. And then there you go. Movie pops up. And if you X out, it's going to go in this little corner right here. So it's always not too far away. And as you can see, we have the audio, and then we have the film itself lined up here on the timeline for you. Quick thing, if you need to manually change the sample rate or frame rate, it's very simple. We just go down to File, and then Project Settings, Synchronization. And there we have the frame rate right here. You have all the options available. You'll probably only end up using these first 4 or 5. Anything down here, you're really not going to have to worry about. Go over to Audio up here, and we have our sample rate. It's already 48, but there's also 44.1, and then some others that, again, you probably won't use, but they are there, and it's just good to know that they're there.
All right, so that's how I do things. What you can do now, if you don't have any sort of DAW, is Google just Digital Audio Workstation, and most companies have a 30-day free trial where you can download it and fiddle around and get used to how they do things. Most DAWs have the same functions, they just go about them in different ways. So just, make use of that free trial, download them, see what you like, what you don't like. That's really a great first step to scoring film. Well, that's it. Thank you all for watching. Be sure to stay updated for new vibe check videos that will be coming out in the near future. In the meantime, check out some of the other series we have at This Is a Film About Something. We have stuff ranging from cooking to costuming, film reviews, and a lot more fun stuff. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. So thank you very much, and we'll see you soon.